This is 29-year-old Gemma McCluskie. You may well recognise her. She played the part of Kerry Skinner in EastEnders. Well, in March of last year, several years after she left the soap, she was murdered. Her dismembered body dumped in an East London canal. Matthew looks now at how detectives caught her killer.
Gemma McCluskie became known as an EastEnders actress, but she'll also be remembered for the horrific way she died.
Gemma was an EastEnder herself from Shoreditch. After leaving the soap, she settled back into normal life, working in a local pub. But in March last year, she suddenly disappeared.
At the time, she was living with her older brother, Tony. On Saturday the 3rd of March, Tony, their other brother, Danny, and a friend went into an East London police station to report Gemma missing.
It was assessed as a low risk. Gemma, although she'd not been missing before, she's an adult. And, you know, there was no other information at that time that suggested that there was anything untoward.
I got a phone call on the Saturday from my son Tony to say he hadn't seen Gemma for a couple of days. I said, well, it's nothing to worry about, Tony. She's probably gone away for a couple of days. I didn't have an inkling that anything had happened to Gemma.
Police made routine missing person inquiries, but 2 days later, there was still no sign of her.
Then everyone started to get worried then. When we realised something was really wrong.
There was an appeal at a local public house, of which Tony helpfully went along to and was pictured in the Sun newspaper appealing for information about the whereabouts of his sister. And Tony was doing everything he could to try and help the police with the investigation.
The following day, the investigation into Gemma's disappearance took a dramatic turn.
It's him.
Tony received a number of sinister phone calls.
Hello?
If you want to see your sister again, you'll get the money.
Well, how do I know you've got her?
Somebody was purporting to have kidnapped Gemma and were asking for a huge ransom for her return.
If you touch my sister, if you lay one hand on her...
The review of her status immediately went from being a low priority to a high priority.
Ugh.
Police traced the blackmail calls to this man, 19-year-old Sam Dunn from Kent. It was a sick hoax. In April this year, Dunn was jailed for 6 months for making malicious phone calls. Then, a moment that would change everything. Within hours of those blackmail calls, a suitcase was found in a nearby canal. Inside, a female torso. It was Gemma. The missing person inquiry was now a murder investigation. The canal was searched, and police decided to re-interview her brother.
We'd had a little bit of an argument, but...
Tony was the last person who'd seen Gemma alive. His information was crucial to the investigation.
What was the last time you remember actually seeing her?
It was between 2:30 and 3 o'clock.
Tony was dealt with as a significant witness.
So, yeah, it was that.
How we treat those people is to interview them on tape, but they are witnesses. They're not suspects, and they're not cautioned.
What were you thinking?
Well, I was just starting to get my own thought, well, where is she, you know what I mean?
Other witnesses were being interviewed at the same time. Detectives soon realised Tony's account didn't add up.
It was just very small things that made us think, well, hold on, that just doesn't seem right.
Police decided to arrest him. He was now a murder suspect.
Tony, did you kill Gemma?
No comment.
Tell me about what you know about the disappearance of Gemma.
No comment.
surely you want to bring to justice the people responsible.
No comment.
It's not infrequent that people don't want to speak to the police. But given that it was his sister, it was bizarre that he had that choice. And so the feeling within the team was, you know, this is our guy.
10 days after his sister disappeared, he was charged with murder.
Go.
With Tony McCluskie in custody, police painstakingly began to build their case. They found pictures of Gemma on the morning she vanished and driving her car back home to the flat. Forensic officers searched the property. Blood and human tissue matched Gemma's DNA. Detectives also checked phone records. The day after she'd gone missing, Tony had called a cab company. CCTV footage shows him with a heavy bag. Police believe it contained his sister's torso.
We seized the car that the minicab driver had used, and we had that forensically examined. What came back was that Gemma's blood was in the boot of the car.
After a 2-minute journey to the canal, Tony's then seen returning to the flat without the bag.
This was huge for us. We knew we had the right person.
Tony!
After months of work, police had proof of what had happened to Gemma. That morning, she'd rowed with her brother about his heavy cannabis use.
Get out of my house.
He'd left the bathroom taps running and the sink had overflowed.
I want you out.
Yes, you're gonna make me go, you?
Yes.
Yeah? Well, go on in!
When she returned to the flat that afternoon, the row escalated.
You've got to go.
I've been a Metropolitan Police officer for nearly 29 years and been investigating murders for 10 years. And in all that time, I can genuinely and honestly say I've not come across anything quite as disturbing as this. Certainly, I've never come across a brother killing a sister. He was clearly evil in what he has done. How can any of us comprehend how somebody could not only kill their own sister, but having then killed her, to then dismember her body? I mean, it really is beyond belief that somebody could do such a sick thing.
Tony dumped her body parts in the canal. Her legs and arms were found over several days, but it took 6 months for her head to be recovered.
So that was very hard, them few months, not knowing. Because I said straight away, there's no way she's getting buried if she's not complete. So we determined to find the last part of her.
When they did recover her, injuries showed she died from being hit at least twice with a blunt object.
He deserves every day he spends in prison. He really does. The way I looked at it straight away, I'd lost 2 children. You know, my son and daughter. Like I said, I've lost both of them.
Tony clearly thought, you know, he had got away with it. He thought he'd covered his tracks. He's now serving a lifetime in prison for his evilness and for the arrogance that he thought that he could get away with cold-bloodedly killing his sister.
We're all going to miss Gemma. You know, she was the life and soul of everything. She was a good girl, a good East End girl she was.
Matthew, a family devastated.
Yeah, terrible, and the judge talked about that. He also contrasted Gemma, a young woman with a huge zest for life, dearly loved, with McCluskie, hopelessly addicted to skunk cannabis, resentful of his sister's popularity. So brother and sister, polar opposites as people.
And his elaborate cover-up.
Yes, he lied, he implicated others, he sent text messages to Gemma's phone pretending he thought she was still alive. And as the prosecution said, he thought
He got incredibly lucky when he got those blackmail calls, because that took police in completely the wrong direction. But bit by bit, meticulously, detectives worked through those blind alleys, those diversions, found the evidence that dragged them back to one person, Tony McCluskie.
And that CCTV was pivotal.
It was crucial, because when they found that footage from the cab company, they showed it to the family. Now, Gemma's other brother had refused to believe up to that point that Tony had anything to do with this. Then he saw that, then he knew it was him. It was the shortest bits of CCTV, the shortest bits of evidence, but it was absolutely compelling. He got life with a minimum of 20 years.
Thanks, Matthew. Time now for a quick last update on what's been coming in on the phones. Here's Mark.